On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla and EV podcast, Tesla's radically advanced AI5 FSD chip has been delayed, so I'll discuss what that means for prospective Tesla buyers and for the Cybercab. Plus, Tesla fights another U.S. state's direct sales ban, Porsche unveils an impressive new EV, and more. What's happening, friends? I'm Ryan McCaffrey, joining you for episode 538 of Ride the Lightning, your weekly Tesla and EV podcast. We've got Daisy the Boxer to my left. Lily is somewhere in the living room. But anyway, it is another great week of Tesla and EV news. Lots of fun stuff to talk about this week. And I want to start here. As promised last week, I wanted to follow up on that big story of Apple CarPlay reportedly coming to Teslas by doing exactly what I said I would, which is making it the subject of this week's Patreon poll. A reminder that the poll is free to vote from anybody. You don't have to be supporting me on Patreon. You just swing on by my Patreon page and vote. And that page is found at patreon.com/Tesla podcast, or just click the link in the episode description. This might have been a new record for most votes in a poll. 381 of you kindly stopped by and cast your vote. The poll question was, how excited are you about Apple CarPlay reportedly coming to Teslas? 41% of you said, I'm super excited, primarily for one or more apps like messages with group chat support, Waze, etc. 20% of you said, I'm not interested in Apple CarPlay in my Tesla. 18% of you said I'm an Android user, so until Android Auto comes to Tesla as well, this doesn't affect me. And then neck and neck with that, 17% of you said I'm indifferent on this one. And then 4% of you said I'm not too familiar with Apple CarPlay, but I'm eager to give it a try. So a pretty good response there. I mean, I'll be honest, I thought there would be a more Android users respond, like people saying that they were an Android user. I'm a little surprised that's only 18%. Now, that could be because the bulk of my listeners are in the US and Apple is a lot more dominant in the US than in Europe. Shout out to all my European listeners, though. I know there are plenty of you out there. But yeah, 41% of you, and presumably most of you that voted in this poll, most of you listening to this podcast, are already Tesla owners. You know, I was talking about how on last week's podcast, I thought this was going to be more of something enticing to people that don't already own a Tesla than it would for people that already have one. But hey, big new feature, 41% of you saying that you are excited for it. So the question now is, when? Will my prediction be correct? Will Tesla be fast tracking this for the holiday update? In another, month or so here is when we can expect that holiday update software to push out to our cars. We shall see. Moving along this week as we get warmed up, anybody can now grab the Tesla Robotaxi app and use the service. Now, the catch, of course, is that you have to be in one of the areas that offers the Tesla Robotaxi. So that, for now, is only Austin or the San Francisco Bay Area, although Phoenix just this week gave approval, so rides might be underway there by the time you hear this. And if they're not, then they probably will be very, very soon. But no more wait list. The Robotaxi app, if you go to your app store and download it, you're in. Like, it's there. You just have to be in Austin or the greater San Francisco Bay Area. Another appetizer for this week, which appetizer is fitting for this story because it's about the Tesla diner. It is a story about the exit of the executive chef from the Tesla diner, as well as a hint from the Tesla diner staff at a new full-service format. This story came from the LA Times, who wrote in part, The chef and co-operator behind Tesla Diner, one of the city's most notable and polarizing new restaurants, is exiting the project. Staff told the LA Times that the combination electric vehicle charging station and diner will also shift to a full-service restaurant model soon. The first restaurant from electric vehicle company Tesla debuted at the border of Hollywood and West Hollywood in July, drawing throngs of fans as well as protesters for months. Which, that's, by the way, side note, the LA Times has, I don't actually know if this story was written by the automotive writer at the LA Times. I don't want to get into this, but this guy, I'm not even going to mention his name, a very long, if you were to look at articles from this dude over the years, just a blatant and obvious anti-Tesla bias. So I'm not sure if he wrote this, but I would politely dispute the use of protesters for months. Like, have there been a couple instances? Yes, but by and large, that's been a very rare thing. And it also has nothing to do with the Tesla Diner, of course. Anyway, let's get back to the story. The LA Times writes, its chef, Eric Greenspan, headed the kitchen with a menu of American classics such as milkshakes, tuna melts, burgers, and Wagyu chili hot dogs. But the new school American cheese founder and former Foundry chef, who also helped launch Mr. Beast Burger and the Weight Watchers Cafe, said he is no longer tied to the diner and that his departure was in the works for more than a month. Quote, I am leaving the Tesla Diner project to focus on the opening of Mish, my long-desired Jewish deli, Greenspan wrote in a text message. He continues saying, quote, projects like Mish and the Tesla Diner require a sharpness of focus and attention, and my focus and attention is now squarely on Mish, end quote. So, hey, LA Times, I mean, I don't want this to sound like an ego thing on my part. I want to be humble here, but I also want to be proud of the work that I've done. So, LA Times, you're not breaking the news of Eric Greenspan leaving the Tesla Diner. I did a month ago in my most recent interview with Franz. In fact, just in case anybody from the LA Times is listening, here's my receipt on that. Meeting with Chef, it's Greenspan, I believe. I'm blanking on the gentleman's name. Are you meeting with his team on a regular
basis? I meet with him. He's no longer part of the team, but that's okay. We're still moving forward, and I think he was great at bringing the diner up to where it is now, but we're moving and adding some elements, and I think I'm just excited with the team that's there. We kind of hit our groove, and it's a really great balance between whether you're in a Tesla or not. You can go charge up, get recharge. We have some great breakfast items coming now, and I'm just excited where that's going to go, and hopefully we'll be rolling out more of them in the near future.
Feels a little weird to play a clip of myself right there, but it had to be done. Clearly, the LA Times should pay attention when I interview Tesla executives. But anyway, I will be very curious what a proper sit-down restaurant looks like. Now, that LA Times does get credit for, because Franz didn't mention anything about that to me. But yeah, I'm going to be extremely curious what that means and how that squares with the fact that superchargers are pretty darn quick. So you don't want too full service of a restaurant where you're there for like an hour-long meal. I honestly imagine that full service means that there will be servers, but the food will still be the same quick service diner food, which would be fine. Like, that would be a logistical change more than anything. Because if you've had the chance to go there, I guess if you haven't, I'll just try to quickly describe it to you. So the downstairs floor is where you order your food. I mean, if you're ordering it in person at the counter. Otherwise, obviously, you can order from your car. But the downstairs on the side door is where you come in to place your order at the counter, at the register, as it were, even though it's all iPads. But and then the counter, it's a round building, as you all know. It curves, the counter seating curves all the way around, and then at the opposite end of that counter, on the other side of the first floor is a pickup window. I mean, it's not literally a window, but it's where they call out your name and you go pick up your food. Now, in my 2 experiences there thus far, that pickup area, there's a ton of people milling around because there's just everybody's waiting for their order. So I wonder if maybe Tesla wants to tweak the logistics here and not have a crowd of people kind of hanging out in the downstairs dining room, the dining area. So instead they want people seated, and they're going to have servers come and take orders and bring you your order when it's ready. That's, in my head, that's what seems to make the most sense here. But I guess we'll find out. Now, when I wrote my notes for this, I had written a note to myself just saying, I'm eagerly awaiting my next chance to go down there, and I'm not sure that if I'll get to do it anytime soon. But as it turns out, since I made these notes, I will be heading back down there. I will be in Los Angeles again for the Game Awards, which is kind of the game industry's closest analog to the Oscars. It's like our big kind of game industry awards thing. It's in downtown LA. So I am looking at, if anybody wanted to meet up, I don't necessarily looking to do like a big formal thing unless I get a big response on email, and you're welcome to email me if this is of interest to you. My email is teslapodcast@gmail.com. But the night that I would be able to go to the diner would be on, after I get in, so on the evening of December 10th, which is a Wednesday. That's probably when if I'm able to get over there, which I hopefully can. I mean, Hollywood's kind of out of the way I'm staying downtown because that's where my event is. But I'm going to do everything in my power to scoot back over to the diner on this trip because the last time I was in LA, I was not able to make it over there. So especially if by December 10th, if they've switched to this full service thing. So anyway, I'm going to head over to do that. You know what? I'm also reminded, I wonder, gosh, I mean, I don't think I'll be able to have time because I'd really like to get back over to the Peterson Auto Museum while I'm down there because they have an 80s and 90s display right now that includes, they've got one of the 3 gold, 24 karat gold DeLoreans that I've seen at the Peterson, but only down in the vault, aka the basement where the lighting isn't awesome. It's up in this 80s and 90s display now. And my detailer, Jeff from Immaculate Reflections, he was down there a couple weeks ago and sent me pictures. And it's just, it's now the gold DeLorean is under proper awesome museum lighting. So now I want to go over and see the gold DeLorean in good lighting. Not to mention all the other cool cars. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I'm able to sneak over there. But that's neither here nor there. Anyhow, so that is an interesting update from the Tesla diner. Interesting stuff. Real quick before I continue, I wanted to mention this week's lightning round mini episode that I do exclusively over on Patreon. So for all of you very generous folks kindly supporting me on Patreon, be sure to check out this week's lightning round, which was a conversation with Patreon backer Matt Chinander and his journey in Tesla that has led him to owning 5 different Teslas, never more than one at a time. So he is, it's honestly, he had a really, really cool story. It was fun talking to him. I've been trying to do these conversations with Patreon backers just like once a month, just to kind of mix things up. And I enjoy talking to you guys. I've had the pleasure of doing it in real life on occasion when, one of you will be coming to San Francisco and you reach out and say, hey, can we get a burger over at In-N-Out? And I've done that plenty of times, and it's just always been fun talking to you guys. And so I thought, well, maybe I can bring that to my audience a little bit through the Patreon lightning round episodes. So check that one out. There are now, I believe that was the 170th lightning round mini episode. So if you're not already supporting me on Patreon, you can join at that $10 per month tier, which is the one that unlocks those lightning round mini episodes every week. And you can instantly get access to all 170 of those. So head on over to my Patreon page to find out more. It's patreon.com/Tesla podcast, or click the link in the episode description. Don't forget that the annual pledge is now an option as well, and you get a 10% discount on the annual pledge as a thank you from me to you for kindly showing support for an entire year, all in one fell swoop. Our headline story this week: Tesla has delayed their next generation AI5 FSD chip to mid-2027. I saw this on Not a Tesla App, who writes, Elon Musk has confirmed on X that volume production of Tesla's next generation AI5 chip will not be ready until mid-2027. The key takeaway is that the Cybercab, initially slated to launch alongside AI5, will instead launch on the current generation AI4 hardware. Elon shared the update after wrapping up a design review for the new chip, which he attended alongside Dell CEO Michael Dell. Elon posted, quote, AI5 will not be available in sufficient volume to switch over Tesla production lines until mid-2027, as we need several 100,000 completed AI5 boards line-side, end quote. So first of all here, for those of you who are planning, who've maybe been holding off on your next Tesla purchase until you know that you can get AI5 in your car, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news here. You've basically got to wait another 6 months. As Elon had previously stated, if we remember, that AI5 would debut in late 2026. That was the guideline we'd previously had. So in my estimation, it is approximately a 6-month delay. 5 to 8 really, I guess, if you want to kind of break it down a little further. I mean, I suppose the silver lining here for AI4 owners is that we get a 6-month stay of execution of sorts before Tesla inevitably shifts FSD development focus primarily over to AI5. And when I say 6-month stay of execution, I don't mean that. I just mean 6 months from where Tesla would have made that shift. Because certainly when AI5 first comes out, Tesla's not going to immediately shift primary development of FSD over to that. They're going to need to get some cars out in the wild first. They're going to need to get an actual fleet out there before they fully make that switch, which is what happened with AI4 as well. But eventually AI5 will take over as the primary development platform. And so whenever that is, we've basically just got another 6 months as AI4 owners of having AI4 be the primary development platform. I suppose, though, that it could, not necessarily, but could also mean that those of us with AI3 cars now have to wait even longer for our promised retrofit. If this delay happens to slow the deployment of FSD unsupervised, which it might not. It might not. We're not sure yet. We shall see on that. By the way, before I move on here, I wanted to politely challenge Not a Tesla App's assertion that this means that the Cybercab will launch with AI4. Because Elon did not say that. That is their interpretation. Because to be clear, I'll say this, they may very well be correct. The Not a Tesla App folks might be correct on this. But, and I say that because I've cited them before on this podcast plenty of times, and they're not just a clickbait blog who likes to throw unsubstantiated claims and headlines out there for clicks, right? That's not who those guys are, in my estimation, in my experience. But that said, again, Elon's words were specifically, quote, insufficient volume, meaning not insufficient, but in space, sufficient volume to switch over Tesla production lines. And so that is no doubt referring to Model Y, Model 3, and then S, X, and Cybertruck. But with Cybercab slated to go into production in April of 2026, we're only talking about basically 1 quarter, or about 3 months. So there might very well be a small run of more or less handmade AI5 boards, not literally handmade, but just low volume, like pilot production boards that can go into the Cybercab for those first few months, especially when you consider that not only will the production rate of the Cybercab be at its lowest in those early months, but also that Tesla will be its own first customer for the Cybercab. I fully acknowledge, by the way, that Tesla is out there running around engineering prototypes of the Cybercab right now that are most likely on AI4 chips, but I just think it wouldn't necessarily make sense to have what would very quickly end up being a minuscule percentage of the Cybercab fleet running on AI4 computers. The Tesla AI team would no doubt much prefer that every single production Cybercab be running on AI5, at least, of course, until AI6 inevitably arrives. So we shall see what happens with that, but at the very least, we can definitely rule out any of us buying Ys, 3s, S's, X's, or Cybertrucks with AI5 in them for at least 18 months. The new Roadster, given the timeline that we're pretty well looking at now with that car, is probably going to have AI5 in it right from the jump, although I have to wonder how long it will take for that car to get FSD, if it ever does, because not only will the Roadster fleet be like a rounding error of the total Tesla fleet, I mean, the Roadsters will make S's and X's look like 3s and Y's by comparison in terms of volume. But the whole point of the Roadster, of course, is for it to be an amazing driver's car, the quote-unquote one last great driver's car, as Lars put it at the Tesla Takeover event earlier this summer. So while it'd be great to have FSD on that car, on the Roadster, for when you want it, I suspect the majority of new Roadster owners are probably going to want to be operating the car for themselves most of the time, because that's where the fun is going to be. But anyway, mid-2027 is the new timeline, at least as of now. Of course, that could change. And with the Cybercab, we'll see, again, maybe not a Tesla app is right. Maybe I'm correct that they'll get sort of pilot versions, pre-production versions of the AI5 boards. Or I suppose a third scenario could be that the start of production on the Cybercab gets delayed by 3 months in order to wait for AI5 to be readily available. We shall see. Next up this week, Tesla is reportedly looking to phase out Chinese-made parts at US factories. I saw this on Teslarati, who wrote, as per the Wall Street Journal report, the shift reportedly came amidst escalating tariff uncertainties between Washington and Beijing. Citing people reportedly familiar with the matter, the publication claimed that Tesla has already swapped out several Chinese-made components, aiming to complete the transition within the next 2 years. The publication also claimed that Tesla's been reducing its reliance on China-based suppliers since the pandemic disrupted supply chains. The company has quietly increased North American sourcing over the past 2 years as tariff concerns have intensified. If accurate, Tesla would likely end up with vehicles that are even more locally sourced than they are today. It would remain to be seen, however, if a change in suppliers for its US-made vehicles would result in price adjustments for cars like the Model 3 and the Model Y. Well, it certainly makes sense for Tesla to take this action in the current political climate, right? Tariffs are a significant part of the current political climate. The bonus here, of course, being, as Teslarati did note, that the cars would become even more American-made than they already are, and they already top the list. As you recall, the number one most American-made car is the Model 3 Performance, with, if I recall correctly, I believe it was 87% of its parts sourced locally. It's crazy to think about that number going up, but it sure sounds like it might do just that in the next year or two. I think it also makes logistical sense for Tesla to do this based on what Tesla has said in the past, even setting aside any geopolitical anything. Remember, in the past, Tesla has talked about wanting to make the cars close to the customers to reduce shipping costs, logistics, and emissions as well. And so it makes perfect sense for that to apply to the parts that go into the cars as well as the factories themselves. A Giga Shanghai built car makes sense to have mostly Chinese sourced parts. A Giga Berlin built Model Y makes sense to have mostly German or European sourced parts. A Giga Texas or Fremont factory built car, you guessed it, makes sense to have mostly North American sourced parts. I mean, heck, as we heard all about in recent weeks, including pretty recently at the annual shareholder meeting, even the AI5 FSD chip will be fabricated in Texas at Samsung's new plant, at least for the North American cars, because as we did hear from Elon, Tesla will also continue to utilize TSMC, presumably to source the chips for the Giga Shanghai made cars. Moving along here this week, Tesla shaved nearly 400 pounds from the Model X. I saw this on Car and Driver, that's who originally reported it, and I want to tip my cap to longtime listener of this podcast and Patreon backer Joe Edgel, who sent this to me. And Car and Driver writes, when we recently tested an updated 2026 Tesla Model X, it had been a decade since we'd put one through our testing ringer, which was just after its launch for the 2016 model year. Although the 2 or 3 row gull-wing door Model X looks largely the same, we did a double take when we put it on our scales, as the 2026 X at 5,219 pounds is nearly 400 pounds lighter than it was originally. We then tracked down Tesla's Vice President of Vehicle Engineering, Lars Moravy, to hear how and where they did it. Moravy said that they were in a hurry to get the Model X to market initially, and that led to a number of less than elegant engineering solutions and parts inherited from the Model S that came before it. The short version is that the weight pairing comes from just about everywhere, but we'll break it down from the largest to the smallest savings. And I'm not going to read you quite everything here. You can read the full article on Car and Driver if you're interested. But continuing along, they said, and he's not saying this is the driving force, but Moravy says he buys his engineers a case of beer for a kilogram saved, which means he handed out a lot of beer to Model X engineers. I think he might have mentioned that on this podcast too. The largest weight savings came from the battery pack and electric motors. Switching the rear motor from an induction type to a permanent magnet design, along with optimizing the half shafts, shed about 100 pounds. As part of the 2021 update, meaning the new Model X, Tesla completely overhauled the battery pack, changing to a slightly more energy-dense cell and switching the module's orientation from horizontal to vertical. This also eliminated roughly 300 cells from the pack. Along with these changes, some modifications to the pack's structure saved nearly 90 pounds, while keeping the usable battery capacity roughly the same. This is a surprising one, especially considering that the Model X's interior materials got a big upgrade for 2026, but Tesla got almost 80 pounds out of the interior bits and pieces. This included making parts thinner, different manufacturing process choices, and incorporating airbag deployment requirements into the headliner fabric. The 5-passenger bench seat variant saved 50 pounds by ditching the pedestal mounting, which also makes it more practical too because the seat folds flat. Getting rid of the center mounting hardware in the bucket seat configuration jettisoned 11 pounds. And revised seatbelt mounting and structure shed 6 pounds. Engineers saved 44 pounds from the high voltage wiring optimization of the wiring from the charge port DC to DC converter and switching from copper to aluminum wiring. The cooling system got a lot simpler, reducing the number of radiators while also incorporating Nürburgring cooling requirements for the Plaid variant, which dropped almost 30 pounds. Some of the Model X's weight loss is due to moving to larger mega castings, where 8 smaller castings in the front and rear structure turned into 4 larger ones. That saved more than 20 pounds and also helped to boost torsional stiffness by around 10%. A move to a lithium-ion 12-volt battery dropped 14 pounds. Tweaks to the front and rear suspension design netted 10 pounds. The plastic front and rear fascias are thinner by 0.6 millimeter, which saved another 10 pounds. The 2026 Model X is also the first Tesla with a cast refrigerant manifold. This not only saves 3 pounds, but the part is made of a less thermally conductive alloy, which gains 0.2% efficiency. Kudos to Car and Driver, by the way, for getting Lars to break it down for them. I found that super interesting. I hope you did too. Because when you list everything out like that, it's really a lot. I mean, that's an insane amount of weight loss. Quick math, I know I went to journalism school, so math isn't my strong suit. It's about a 7% weight loss over the original Model X, which is quite a bit considering that the range has only gone way up, not just up, but way up. For those of you who have not been around Tesla for the very long time that I have, the original Model X 90D, which is what Car and Driver's comparing to here, had a range of 257 miles of range. The long-range X today gets 352 miles of range, so about, not only 100 miles more about, but it's actually even more pronounced than that because the EPA testing cycle, where the range estimates come from, has gotten tougher over the last 10 years. So 257 then would be less than 257 now. So bravo to the Tesla engineering team. That is just a really impressive feat, given that it's still essentially the same car on the outside as it was 10 years ago. One more Tesla news story before I move along to other EV news this week. Tesla sues North Dakota over the state's direct sales ban. Saw this one on Drive Tesla Canada, who wrote, Tesla is once again going head-to-head with a state over its right to sell directly to customers, this time taking North Dakota to court after regulators refused to grant the company licenses to open 2 new locations, in Fargo and Bismarck. According to filings first reported by the Bismarck Tribune, the North Dakota Department of Transportation denied Tesla's dealership applications in 2024, pointing to a state statute that bars manufacturers from selling vehicles directly to consumers. Tesla appealed that interpretation, arguing its business model is fundamentally different from the traditional automaker dealer system the law was designed to regulate. But after meeting with the company, the state held firm, prompting Tesla to file its lawsuit. A hearing before South Central District Judge Bonnie Storbakken is scheduled for December. In its lawsuit, Tesla says it does not meet the state's legal definition of a manufacturer because it does not sell vehicles to franchised dealerships, something the statute explicitly references. Instead, Tesla sells exclusively through its own retail network, which it says places it outside the traditional manufacturer category the law was meant to govern. Quote, traditional motor vehicle manufacturers sell their vehicles through independent franchise dealers. Tesla, by contrast, sells its vehicles directly to customers throughout the United States. As a result, this Tesla has no franchise dealerships in any state, the company argues in its filings. Well, you've heard me say this before, but eventually, Tesla and Rivian and Lucid, who are all selling cars this way, they will win all of these state-by-state battles. I'm convinced of that. And the reason is because customers want to buy cars directly from these companies. They don't want to deal with dealers. There's a reason that dealerships are derisively known as stealerships. So hopefully Tesla will win this battle. I mean, it sure sounds like they're in good shape based on North Dakota's own legal definition of a manufacturer. So we'll see what happens with this case next month. Before I get to the other EV news as well as your Ride the Lightning hotline calls, I want to mention my friends at Accelerate Auto and their XCare extended warranty coverage for EVs. For the first time ever, XCare is offering battery and drive unit protection as its own standalone product, and it's now available for all EVs. If your EV is a 2018 model or newer and under 100,000 miles at the time you purchase XCare, you are eligible. But here's the important part. 2018 models are only eligible until December 31st or until the odometer hits 99,999 miles. After that, they age out permanently. So if you own a 2018, as I do, this really is the final window. To celebrate the launch of this standalone battery and drive unit protection, XCare is running a Black Friday offer from now through November 30th. You'll get 10% off battery and drive unit coverage the first time this product has ever been discounted. Just enter the referral code BDURTL, meaning battery, drive unit, Ride the Lightning. So BDURTL at the payment screen. Again, that's BDURTL for 10% off through November 30th. Protect the two most expensive components in your EV and head into the new year with peace of mind. Again, you can check your eligibility at xcare.com. That's XCARE.com. On to other EV news, and I've got 3 other EV stories for you this week. Remember, gosh, I don't know when, but remember at some point when I said that it sure seems like everybody has now adopted Tesla's NACS plug, and that I didn't think there was anyone left who hadn't? I mean, in North America, obviously. Well, it turns out I forgot about one, and it's my favorite punching bag, Stellantis. So they announced this week that, quote, Stellantis is adopting NACS for select BEVs in North America, Japan, and South Korea, giving access to 28,000 plus Tesla superchargers. Rollout starts in 2026 for Jeep Wagoneer S and Dodge Charger Daytona BEV, followed by the 2026 Jeep Recon and other future compatible BEVs, end quote. So I said punching bag earlier because if you've been listening for a while, you know that I've been highly critical of Stellantis over specifically their EV efforts, or in my opinion, lack thereof. So the Daytona BEV seems to be, unfortunately, a big miss from every review I've seen. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trying to pick on them. Like, I have watched a few reviews from critics I trust, Marquez Brownlee, Throttle House, Doug DeMuro. Those are the 3 top of mine. And they've all heavily criticized that car. And anecdotally, for what it's worth, which is nothing, but I've seen exactly one Daytona BEV on the road. One. Which is not great. Even the Volkswagen ID Buzz, I'm finally starting to see in some decent numbers out on the road. But I will say somebody up the street from me, to be a little fair here, one of my neighbors up the street seemed to have traded in their Model Y for the Wagoneer S, because it's the Wagoneer's now parked where the Y used to be, right in front of their house, and I don't see the Y anymore, so I have to assume that they've traded it in. Now, the Wagoneer, the aforementioned Marquez Brownlee, a.k.a. MKBHD, whose autofocus channel that's all about cars is awesome. I do recommend it. Marquez was not kind to the Wagoneer EV in his review, so I'll just say I hope my neighbors aren't regretting their decision to part with the Model Y and go with the Wagoneer. But and then finally, from this announcement, I confess that this is the first time that I've heard of the Jeep Recon, but it turns out that's for good reason. It's because that vehicle was just announced alongside this NACS announcement. Now, here's a quick summary of the Jeep Recon, courtesy of CNBC. So This sounds like that they're aiming for the off-road market, which I think is pretty great. And obviously on brand for Jeep, right? Off-market is very much their thing. So here's the CNBC summary. They say, Jeep's new Recon all-electric SUV will start at $65,000. The American SUV brand announced when it officially revealed the vehicle. The 2026 Jeep Recon has been years in the making, as the idea of an electric vehicle inspired by the brand's iconic off-road Wrangler SUV was first revealed in 2021. It's expected to begin production early next year at a plant in Mexico. The Recon, revealed ahead of the Los Angeles Auto Show, includes familiar boxy Jeep styling as well as removable doors, a spare tire on the rear, and open-air roof, all synonymous with the brand's Wrangler SUV. Quote, with the Jeep Recon, we're proving that electrification isn't just compatible with off-road excellence, it can elevate it, delivering instant torque, precision control, and a quieter, more connected driving experience that's uniquely Jeep, says Bob Broderdorf, CEO of Jeep. The Recon's price is a roughly $14,000 premium over an entry-level 2025 Wrangler plug-in hybrid, and a nearly $27,000 premium over a base 2026 Wrangler 4-door. Pricing is in line with the $65,200 Wagoneer S EV with a range of 294 miles. But again, the 294 is the Wagoneer, so hang tight on that for a second. So first I want to say $65,000 isn't cheap, but trying to be fair to Stellantis here. If it's truly capable off-road, then it's cheaper than pretty much all of the other EV pickup trucks that are also off-road capable, including, I'm talking like Rivian R1T, yes, Cybertruck is definitely in that group too, the Hummer EV's in that group, like all the EV pickups, $65K, it's cheaper than those. But I'm glad to see them starting to get some EVs on the road. I want to say something nice. But that said, and again, maybe you think I'm being too hard on this company, because I don't have any like history with them or beef with them. I just really think they've not been serious about the EV transition. But so here's my last point, and I know this is another dig at Stellantis, but here's the thing: $65,000 price. The range on this thing, 250 miles. Not that that's horrible, but the thing is that combination, that price for that range, I'm not sure they're going to find a lot of takers willing to pay $65K for a 250-mile range car. And if they don't believe me, they can ask Volkswagen about the aforementioned ID Buzz, which starts at $60K and has a range of only 234 miles. And again, they do not seem to be selling. I know I just said I've seen a few of them around, but they do not seem to be moving off of dealer lots. And we want EVs to move off of dealer lots and into people's garages and driveways. So I wish Jeep the best with this Recon, but I don't know. We'll see. $65K for 250 miles of range. That's tough. Next, in other EV news this week, Mazda has quietly begun testing its first purpose-built EV for North America. Saw this on Drive Tesla Canada, who said, Mazda's on the brink of making a meaningful push into the EV market. After years of hesitation and a string of half measures, including the short-range and short-lived MX-30, the Japanese automaker has begun real-world testing of its first dedicated EV designed specifically for North America. The test vehicle, recently spotted near Mazda's R&D hub in Irvine, California, marks the start of the company's most ambitious EV program to date. According to a sighting reported by Automotive News, the early prototypes are riding on Mazda's upcoming Skyactiv EV scalable architecture. Unlike Mazda's previous electrification attempts, this is a clean sheet platform engineered from the ground up for battery electric driving, modern charging capabilities, and a wide range of vehicle sizes. Although the engineering prototypes appear to be built on a patchwork of body panels from its existing internal combustion-powered SUVs, the proportions tell the real story. The final product should slot into the mid-size crossover category, competing directly with the segment where Mazda already finds its strongest US sales. Mazda has confirmed that production of its first dedicated EV will begin in Japan in 2027, with North American sales following in 2028. Mazda has yet to reveal key specifications such as range, battery size, charging speed, or motor output. But with the brand aiming to have EVs account for roughly 25% of global sales by 2030, the company can't afford to enter the market with another short-range, compliance-focused model like the MX-30. Well, 21 in every 4 Mazdas sold, they want to be an EV in 5 years, and the first proper EV for North America isn't going to hit for 3 of those 5 years. Good luck. Again, I'm not trying to be mean, but that seems like an uphill battle. But Mazda, unfortunately, like Stellantis, has been another automaker whose EV efforts have been seriously lacking. I mean, you heard the Drive Tesla Canada story there. They laid it out pretty well. So 2028 is still a long time away. So while it is fair to criticize how long it has taken Mazda to wake up, because, hey, I get that you can't just wave a magic wand and bring a new EV to market. So hopefully this will be a good car in 2028 and provide buyers in that extremely large crossover SUV market with another good option. And finally, in other EV news this week, pivoting to a non-Tesla automaker that is doing a good job with EVs. I'm picking on the guys that aren't. Here's one that I think is doing a good job, Porsche. They have officially unveiled the all-new electric Cayenne SUV, which happens to be, and yes, this is true, even though Porsche sells the 911, the Cayenne EV is, for now, the most powerful Porsche ever. Porsche did announce this wide, but I first saw this posted by our Tesla tipster friend Sawyer Merritt, so a tip of the cap to him. And Sawyer wrote in his post, here are the details. I'll just rip through them for you. It's the starting price on this thing is $111,000. If you want the turbo version, that's $165K. Fully loaded, meaning you're going all out, checking every box, which there are some impressive boxes, I will say, as I'll read those for you in a second. But fully loaded, $230,000. The range, 315 miles. The horsepower, 1,139 horsepower. So that's where your most powerful Porsche ever comes in. Wireless charging, up to 11 kilowatts, which is pretty quick, via a $6,000 floor plate, a 113 kilowatt hour battery. The 0 to 60 is as low as 2.4 seconds without a rollout, which is super impressive. A curved OLED center screen, except it's curved, well, it's more like it's folded. It's bent. It's tough to describe. You should Google image search it, but it's sort of flat, like it's well, I guess it's parallel to like your chest, right? Parallel to your torso on the top half or maybe top 2/3 of it, and the bottom third folds like it's like on a shelf. So you've got some other controls, like environmental kind of fixed AC climate control stuff down there, which is pretty interesting. They promise on the back of the 400 kilowatt peak charging, which handily beats all of the Teslas except the Cybertruck. They're promising a 10% to 80% charge in under 16 minutes. Obviously, you gotta find a V4 Tesla supercharger or one of the not very many Electrify America stations that can do that. But hey, it can do it. The car can do it. Top speed is 162 miles an hour. It's got an air suspension, rear axle steering, torque vectoring plus on the turbo, and Porsche Active Ride for better handling and comfort, a 0.25 drag coefficient, a 3D light strip in the rear with animated graphics and illuminated Porsche lettering, a 14.25-inch digital instrument cluster, which is an OLED in front of the driver, and an optional 14.9-inch passenger display, an optional augmented reality heads-up display that virtually projects an 87-inch display 10 meters in front of the car. I genuinely want to see that. That sounds awesome. Cargo space, panoramic sunroof with variable light control, meaning you can adjust the transparency of it. Some higher-end cars are starting to do that now, and it is so cool. It is awesome. If you've not seen that, go watch a video on that. It's really, really cool. Heated seats, armrests, door panels, and steering wheel. The towing capacity is 7,700 pounds. The battery architecture is 800 volt. Deliveries begin summer of 2026. So by all accounts, as I think you'll agree after that spec sheet that I just read you, it seems like a great SUV. It's just incredibly expensive, which is the case with gas-powered Porsches too. It's not unique to the EV offerings of Porsche. And again, they are great cars, but they're expensive. So the closest competitors for the Cayenne EV are certainly the Model X, yes, plus the new Lucid Gravity, as well as the Cadillac Escalade IQ, the latter of which, by the way, just won Motor Trend's 2026 SUV of the Year award. The Escalade, just as a quick tangent, has got an even higher starting price than the Cayenne EV. It starts at $127K. But I'll give the Escalade EV this. It crushes the Cayenne, and for that matter, the Model X, on range. The Cadillac Escalade IQ, 465-mile range. The Lucid Gravity, if you're curious, is pretty well right there. 450 miles of range on that one. Anyway, getting back to the Cayenne. Porsche is known for their driving dynamics. So if you want a great driving, full-size electric SUV that doesn't have driver assist stuff, no autopilot, nothing resembling full self-driving, which obviously Tesla is leading the way on, which Lucid is making an effort on. Cadillac's, GM's got the Super Cruise, which is supposed to be pretty good in the areas that it works. But Porsche, no, that's not what Porsche's offering. That's, I guess, if you want the manual input experience, which, hey, a lot of people still value that. I do. I use FSD, but I love driving my Model 3 Performance myself as well. But if that's what you are after and you have the budget for it, I suspect the Cayenne EV will probably not let you down. As you heard there, it's not out for another 6 to 8 months or so. So we'll see what the reviews are like once it gets closer. Again, the Cayenne EV is clearly not for everyone. It is a vehicle at the top end of the market, but what we do know is that the Porsche Taycan is amazing in most categories. I know the software is kind of the big bugaboo with those cars. Hopefully Porsche's been working on that. I mean, we know that eventually they're going to get the Rivian software, right? Because Volkswagen Group signed that big multi-billion-dollar deal with Rivian. But in the short term, hopefully the Cayenne will have an improved software experience over the Taycan. But in pretty much every other respect, the Taycan's pretty awesome. And people also seem to be really liking the Macan EV, which came out not too long ago. So, in my humble opinion, I think Porsche is off to a pretty great start in the EV department. All right, that's everything I've got for you in the world of Tesla and other EV news. But let's move along now to the Ride the Lightning hotline, where I've got some excellent phone calls from all of you, the listeners, lined up and ready to go. If you want to call in with a question, comment, or discussion topic, you want to respond to something I say, one of the stories you heard, whatever it is, please try to keep your call to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many callers each week as possible. And so if you're wondering, okay, great, I'm happy to do that. How do I send the phone call in? There are two easy ways to do that. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record the question, and then email that file to me at my podcast email address, which you can also just email me about EV things anytime you like. That email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same 90-second or less call and just leave it as a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's a toll-free number that you can call anytime. The number is 1-888-989-8752. That number again, 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. First up this week is a bit of a longer call. I know I just said please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less. This one from Blake is more than that, but Blake from Los Angeles here lays out what I thought were three pretty good reasons to welcome Apple CarPlay to Tesla if and when that happens. Go ahead, Blake.
Hey, Ryan, this is Blake from Los Angeles. Hope you are doing well. I wanted to follow up on your podcast over the weekend about the CarPlay in Tesla and what kind of benefits that people might be able to see with this being added. And there's three that kind of stand out to me. And I don't know, I'd be curious what your thoughts are on this, the community as well. But I always found that the text messaging in the Tesla infotainment has been something that, was implemented some years back and maybe never has been updated. And I don't know if it's using MMS or what, but there's the issue that I find when you're in a text group and you respond to somebody that mentions something in the group, and it will respond directly to them instead of within the group. There's the lack of emojis that kind of come up as well. The second one that I would say is, even though that Siri is probably inferior to Grok, Grok's capabilities, as far as, adding a calendar thing or, adding notes or things like that, the simple stuff that Siri can actually do, Grok is still not capable of doing that. And especially with the upcoming, Siri update that everyone's been kind of talking about, and now it might be powered by Gemini. This might be a good time for Tesla to kind of get in and have that available to people outside of Grok's AI capability. So maybe there'd be a big jump in Siri capability and whatnot. And I think that also kind of comes along with the, privacy stuff that I'm sure that Tesla is all about, keeping things private with Grok. But, when people are asking, hey, what's the weather like around me? And Grok doesn't have that information available to it, then, it'd be something that people would feel a little bit more secure with Siri, I think. That's just my opinion, I guess. And then third would be the App Store. And I think that's kind of the obvious one. Even though that Tesla has implemented their own version of kind of the essential apps, there are still some things that end up in CarPlay, in the CarPlay App Store, or the CarPlay apps that show up in your, CarPlay system, like things like Libby or, Waze, things like that people might be more familiar with. And I think that would really kind of help people to kind of, be able to cling on to that Linus blanket of CarPlay when they pick up a new Tesla for the first time. Anyway, hopefully that didn't go too long, but keep up the good work. Thank you so much, and listening to the podcast every week. Have a good one.
Well, Blake, I will forgive you for running that call a bit long, because you really did lay out a great case for why CarPlay would be beneficial to Tesla owners, or at least, well, obviously those Tesla owners with iPhones. Those are 3 great points that you made, and I appreciate you taking the time to call in. Thank you very much for that, sincerely. Thanks, Blake. Next up is Bill from Wisconsin responding to Joel from Florida, who had called in a few episodes back asking about road tripping in his Model 3. Here's Bill to speak to that.
Hey, Ryan, it's Bill from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. I'm actually calling today in response to Joel from Florida, who said he was originally from Wisconsin, and he was asking about road tripping in a Model 3. Well, I can tell you that we took our 2018 Model 3 mid-range all the way from northwestern Wisconsin to Corvallis, Oregon on one trip and back, which was 4,000 miles or so. And then we did another time, which you may recall, we came to Central California by way of Corvallis, Oregon, that time as well, also in our 2018 Model 3 mid-range. Both of those trips were fantastic. It was my wife and I and our dogs, our 2 dogs. And in both cases, we thought it was magnificent and had no problem, traveling light or whatever. The Model 3 was more than roomy enough to have room for all of our stuff. And I would double down on what you said. That was a Model 3 with hardware 3, AI3. And now that we have our 2024 with AI4, it's even more of a slam dunk because obviously it has almost 100 miles more range, which I've never really had range anxiety anyway, but that extra 100 miles certainly adds some peace of mind, as well as the fact that with AI4, other than the fact that it watches your eyes, you could practically take a nap when you're going through the interstates, going along the interstates with it. So anyhow, that's it. I just wanted to let you know. See ya.
Bill, I appreciate you sharing your story and your encouragement for Joel or anyone else out there looking to get out into the world and take a road trip in their Tesla. And Joel, if you're listening, I hope that if you do take that trip, that maybe if you get a chance, give me a call after it's over to follow up and tell me how it went. I would genuinely love to hear from you again after the trip. Safe travels to Joel, safe travels to anyone out there that's heading out on the road this Thanksgiving and or this holiday season. All right, I've got time for just one more call this week. It comes from Santi in Spain.
Hello, Ryan. This is Santi from Spain. Sorry for my English. I will try my best. This is an idea for the Tesla team for enhancing Tesla's supercharger and trip planner for round trips. When planning a trip, especially shorter ones, it's common to arrive at your destination without a nearby charging station to recharge for the return journey. As a result, the current trip planner might leave you with insufficient battery energy to drive back home or even reach the nearest supercharger on the way. To address this, I suggest adding a round-trip option to the in-car map interface. This would enable the system to calculate not just the energy needed to reach your destination, but also the additional range required to return to the nearest supercharger or your starting point, with a safe buffer. Thank you.
Great idea here. I genuinely love this. I love it. It would definitely help people out and make trip planning even smoother and less stressful. So thank you so much for calling in with that. I hope the Tesla team is listening and taking notes on that one. All right, that is all the time I've got for the Ride the Lightning hotline this week, but keep your calls coming. The call-in instructions for how to submit a call, I gave you those at the top of the segment, so refer back to those. And I will, of course, get to more phone calls on an upcoming episode. But for now, what is going on with me and my cars? Well, my car is going to just hang out in the garage for a little while. My family and I have the very good fortune of heading out on a trip this week over Thanksgiving with my extended family, with my in-laws. So no doubt I will be looking to get my car cleaned back up again once I get back. There's no sense in cleaning it now before I leave. It's just going to accumulate a bunch of dust. So it'll just hang out in the garage and be ready for me when I get back. As for an entertainment recommendation for this week, I am going to take a mulligan, or I guess a buy on this one. I've downloaded a bunch of shows for my trip. We'll see what's good and what's not, and then I'll get back to you on next week's podcast. But I do definitely have a pro tip of the week for you. It comes from Corey in Westchester County, New York.
Hey Ryan, shout out to you for 10 fantastic years of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast. You've been a fantastic addition to my weekly routine. Love listening to you, love listening to your insights, even the personal insights, and just wanted to thank you again for 10 great years. And I do have a pro tip for you. I think it's something that those of us in the Northeast and in snowy areas need to remember. When you drive in snow, it's really important to turn down your braking regen and turn down your acceleration. So put it into chill mode, turn down your braking regen to low. That reduces the risk of a spin out. So as we're getting into the winter months at some point in the next few months, it's a good thing to remember beforehand. So again, congratulations to you for 10 years, and hope the puppies are all doing well.
Thank you for those extremely kind words, Corey. I really, really do appreciate that. And what you've called in with here, this isn't just a pro tip, it's a safety tip. So thank you very much for sending this in. Honestly, this one seems so vital for particular climates that I'm surprised that Tesla hasn't already implemented it automatically. If the car detects extremely cold temperatures and or snowy conditions, using the external thermometer that it and every car's got built into it, as well as the cameras too. Like the cameras can see if it's snowing or not. So maybe they will at some point, but in the meantime, thank you for letting folks know what to check for manually. I definitely could use more great pro tips. If you've got a Tesla or EV related pro tip, something about your car, about our cars that may not be super obvious, that's just a good thing that other people would appreciate knowing, feel free to call in with it, and you send those in the same way that you send in the regular Ride the Lightning hotline calls, which again, I gave you the instructions for just a couple minutes ago. A quick word about a few friends of the podcast before I go, starting as usual with abstractocean.com. They got a million great aftermarket accessories for your Tesla or your Rivian as well, for that matter. A lot of different lighting kits if you want to change the color of the lighting on the interior of your car. The puddle lights as well. They've got a good selection of cool custom puddle lights you can put down there, like the TESLA wordmark light. Just all kinds of great stuff in the lighting department. Also, they've got the tempered glass screen protectors that are great too, custom fit for every Tesla. And it's basically the same glass that Corning uses for Gorilla Glass. So it's tough, it's custom fit. I definitely recommend it. That's a very key component of your Tesla or Rivian interior. So you want to keep it protected. Grab yourself one of their 4th generation tempered glass screen protectors or one of the other million great aftermarket accessories to get a 15% discount on your first order at abstractocean.com. Pile everything you like into your online shopping cart, and when you get to checkout, use the coupon code RTLPodcast. That's all one word, no spaces, RTL Podcast, for 15% off of your first order. The Snap Plate, as well as the newer, stronger Snap Plate Plus, available for all the Teslas, as they've got the Rivian included there as well. Snap Plate is great. You can get it at everyamp.com/RTL or click the link in the episode description. And there's a discount code here as well. Whichever products you choose, get them into your online shopping cart. At checkout, use the coupon code RTL for a nice discount as well. So why use the Snap Plate? or the Snap Plate Plus? Well, if you either want or legally need to have a front license plate on your car, the one that Tesla gives you, the front plate mount that Tesla gives you, sticks to your car with tape, automotive tape. That's a no-go in the McCaffrey household. You want something that's not going to leave anything behind if you ever want to remove it, and that is the case with the Snap Plate. When it's on there securely, but if you ever want to take it off for any reason, maybe you're detailing the car, taking it to a Cars and Coffee show, whatever the case may be, it'll come off and leave nothing behind. And when it's on, it's a nice, clean, minimalist design. So again, get yours at everyamp.com/RTL, and don't forget to use the coupon code RTL at checkout. Immaculate Reflections, the detailer in my neck of the woods, who I use both my cars. Jeff is the name of the owner and master proprietor there, master detailer. He's awesome. He's a great human and a great detailer as well. And he is offering, as usual, a Ride the Lightning listener discount for any service that you book in with him. So if you're in or gonna be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area with your Tesla or another car that you love, make an appointment ahead of time and take it over to Immaculate Reflections, and I promise that you will not regret it. You will leave happy when your car is done, whether you're doing paint protection film on some or all of the car, paint correction to get your paint finish looking as good as it possibly can, and or ceramic coating so that you don't have to wax the car for the next 5+ years. Whatever you want to do, Jeff at Immaculate Reflections will work with you, work with your budget. And again, I genuinely promise, I know this sounds very hyperbolic, but I'm being very sincere with him when I say that you will leave happy. Everyone that I've ever steered to Immaculate Reflections, and it's been a lot of people at this point over the years, nobody has ever complained to me, ever once. They've only ever said, wow, the car looks great. Thank you so much for this recommendation. In fact, one of my longtime listeners sent me a note that who has an original 2012 Model S. So one of the early, not a signature series, but an early production Model S. He's had the car 13 years, and it's finally time to move on. He's upgrading to a 2026 Plaid Model S, and he's taken it over to Immaculate Reflections. And I can't wait to see when the car is done what he thinks of it. I know he's going to be super happy. So go to the website, irdetailing.com. You'll see a contact button right in the middle of the page there near the top or in the upper left corner. Click that, reach out, get on the appointment, get on the schedule with Immaculate Reflections. And again, your car will thank you and you will thank yourself. You can find this podcast on any of the big podcast services. Just search Ride the Lightning Tesla on whichever podcast service you prefer. Then click the follow button. And when you do that, it means you will get a notification every time there's a new episode, which is every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, unless you are supporting me on Patreon, which you can do for just $5 a month. The support tiers start at just $5 a month. There's that most popular tier I was talking about earlier in the podcast. That's the $10 per month tier. That one gets you the entire stash of the lightning round mini episodes that I do each week. Let me try that again. Rewind. As well as the perk that you get at that base level $5 per month tier. It's actually 2 perks at the $5 tier. You get early access to each week's episode, and you get an ad-free episode as well. You get, and that's the early version you get. It's the early access version is the ad-free version. So you're getting both of those perks. In fact, I can tell you right now that next week's episode, number 539, if you're with me on Patreon, you'll get extra early access to it because I've already recorded it. As I said, I'm going away with my family for the Thanksgiving holiday. It's a great privilege to get to do that. Very, very grateful to get that opportunity. And, I really want to just take a break from all my work, from my day job, and yes, even ride the lightning, even though I love it. It's just nice to just take a break, have some family time where I don't have to think about any other real responsibilities. And so I have pre-recorded an episode for you for next week. And those of you that are with me on Patreon will get very, very early access to that. And I hope everybody, even if you're not with me on Patreon, you'll just enjoy that next week when it does come out and you get a chance to hear it. But anyway, if you would see it in your heart to support what I'm doing here on Patreon, you can either click the link in the episode description or just go to patreon.com/Tesla podcast and you'll see it all laid out for you. The $5 tier and those perks you get, the $10 tier and all those perks you get, and on and so forth. So check out the Patreon page if you get a chance. I would be very appreciative if you took the time to take a look at it. Oh, and don't forget that you can email me anytime, teslapodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow me on X and or on Instagram. I have the same username on both of those social media platforms, and that username is DMC_Ryan. And yeah, that'll about do it for this week's Ride the Lightning. Last thing before I go is to say hello and thank you to the top-tier Patreon backers. One of the perks they get is getting their name shouted out at the end of each week's episode. So I'll start with the Roadster in Space tier backers: Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, Doug Carey, Michael Gallo, and Tony Figueroa. The Maximum Plaid crew. Huge thanks and a hello go out to Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, Jerry Slinger, Kenneth Corbett, Brian Bertoglio, Kim Bay, Troy Sievers, Chip Hooper, Matt Chinander, Robert Moran, Rav, Christopher Mann, and Michael Williams. And last but certainly not least, the grandfathered in plaid level supporters. This tier of the Patreon is officially no more, but these very generous folks continue to very kindly and generously support me at that plaid tier. They are George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk in quotes, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. That'll wrap it up for Ride the Lightning episode 538 again. I hope you enjoy next week's pre-prepared episode for you. I will get back to the usual weekly up to the minute, well, up to the week, and anyway, up to the week analysis when I get back, and I move on to episode 540. But the person that I've spoken with for next week's episode, very interesting person, very interesting Tesla lifestyle that this person is leading. So I'll leave it for you to discover and listen to that. But to my American listeners, I would like to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving, safe travels if you are on the road, either in your Tesla or heading out via airplane. But regardless, I hope all of you have a wonderful week. I am grateful to get some time away with my family. All the best to you and yours. Happy electric motoring. Again, 539 will be coming at you next week, and then I'll be back, quote unquote, live for episode 540. I'll see you then.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.